There isn't a spell strong enough to refrain these witches from using some charmed language in this episode of Bewitched Banter. You have been warned. Content is not suitable for all listeners.
Welcome! You're listening to Bewitched Banter.
I'm Krista, and I believe that people are inherently shitty.
And I'm Amy, and I tend to believe that people are naturally good.
But ironically, I'm a super believer in the supernatural and all things spiritual.
And I'm a total skeptic.
We're best friends, and in this podcast, we're seeking to explore and understand each other's perspectives with deep dives into the spooky, spiritual, the magical, and the mystical.
And some straight up spoofs.
Today, we'll be covering witchcraft and witches from the Western world.
Cheers to that!
Cheers! Let's get spiritual.
Fuck that. Let's get cynical. Awesome. I am absolutely so excited to tell you my stories today.
Yay!
I just have to be a little corny here, but like any basic witch, I love this time of year. Like I've been burning my pumpkin candles like every night.
Oh, I got bourbon cider candle. I got fall leaves, coconut pumpkin, and it was so bad. My mom was like, "You need to turn that shit off."
Or blow that shit out.
Blow that shit out.
But diving into our topic, I want to first tell you that witchcraft is such a broad term, and it actually was, compared to some other episodes we've done, it was pretty hard topic to research because there was so much information and to really condense it down, but it can completely have a different definition based on one's culture, religion, and it has held different meanings throughout history.
In different parts of the world, I'm assuming, too.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
Yes. And the most broad definition of a witch would be, which would typically be a woman, but not always, is someone who's credited with having malignant supernatural powers.
Oh, malignant. That's interesting.
And for this reason, we have decided to make a 3-part Halloween mini-series dedicated to witches. And today, I will be focusing on the Western world's view of what it means to be a witch. I will also be covering, which I can't wait to get into, why the iconic Halloween costume of a witch has a deeper historical background and explain why today we associate a witch with a broom and a cat. It's really interesting, actually.
I think I know the broom, but I won't spoil it.
Yeah, just wait till I tell you.
The cat, I don't know, but broom, I think I got. So on that note, we do promise that our whole podcast is not dedicated to witches or only talking about witchcraft or only spiritual. We'll get into some spoofs and spooky other stuff as well. So we don't want you to get the impression that based on the name of our podcast, Bewitched Banter, that the only topic we will be covering is witches. We've already got some really awesome pre-recorded episodes that will be coming to your earphones real quick, starting October 5th, today actually, where we cover psychic, solving crimes, tarot cards, and we find out that Amy has a soft spot for the infamous Miss Cleo.
I do.
Which, I mean, who doesn't? She's awesome. We will discuss how yoga started as a spiritual practice and how it transformed into what it is today. In that episode, I'll cover a yogi that actually helped inspire the Beatles when they were in a serious creative slump. For all those Beatles fans out there. And just so you know, there are also a few topics that we'll be covering and that we dedicated to push them back so we could actually do our launch. And it fell in October, so we couldn't think of a better topic than witches for the spooky Halloween season.
Yes, definitely. So we have a lot of fun topics coming your way. And took us a while to get here, and that's why we ended up launching in October. And we're going to launch on Krista's birthday.
Yes! It's like, I just want to say thank you because last year's birthday was not a great one. So I'm just so excited to bring this new year into the birth of our Bewitched Banter baby.
Yeah, so we'll be celebrating Krista and the birth of our podcast. So I'm really excited. It sounds like we're going to go out to like a mixology bar with your family and Amber, one of our friends. So it should be really fun.
I'm stoked.
And it's definitely a good cause for a celebration because we've been working really hard on this.
And I have been sober for the last 30-ish days, and it'll be my first drink, so I will not be recording that day.
Yay! Yeah, that'll be awesome. I'm proud of you. So with all that said, let us dive in and let's just get into it.
Let's do it.
So most people are under the assumption that witches are a Christian invention, but the concept of a witch actually predates Christianity.
No way.
And historians believe the idea of a witch has been around as long as humanity has tried to deal with disease and avoid natural disasters.
Oh, that's cool. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And some of the earliest findings or recordings of a witch are from ancient Roman times. And during that time, there was a law in place that stated no one could practice illicit magic.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. So they believed in magic to say have a rule or a law.
Archaeologists also have found hundreds of ancient Greek curse tablets that mentioned witchcraft. And then to explain what a curse tablet is, it is a very thin sheet of lead with text scratched in tiny letters.
Okay.
So they found artifacts with that on it.
Huh.
And then in the Middle East, ancient civilizations worshipped powerful female gods.
Woohoo!
And women often practiced the holiest of rituals. So women were trained to become priestesses, which is often referred to as a wise woman. And this may be some of the earliest manifestations of what we recognize as a witch. These wise women would make house calls, deliver babies, and help other women deal with infertility and help cure impotent men. And this is totally off topic, but I had to bring this up because I got really curious because I was like, okay, well, obviously today we have Viagra. I was like, but what did they use back then?
It's a natural herb, I think, called fox.
Well, I'm going to get into it. But they might have used that. But these are some of the crazy potions and concoctions they came up with.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. So to make the penis erect, one should anoint it with honey before sex.
Ow, imagine that in your puss. Ooh, no thank you.
Or put arugula seed in honey and drink it. So many of the recipes in the ancient world would utilize...
Isn't that kind of like, remember, do you ever hear... Sorry, this is personal, but like if your guy drinks pineapple juice, it's supposed to make this taste better.
Yes, from Sex and the City.
Is that where it's from?
Yeah.
Oh my god. And Stanford just died. The actor.
Who's that?
Carrie's best friend. Her like gay bestie.
Oh, really?
The actor just died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. 2 days ago, I think.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah. I didn't know that. Oh, and then they would use body parts. So yeah. And so when or like animal parts. Humans? Sorry, not body.
Oh, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, sorry, forgot an important word there. But whenever a bull would urinate after sex, they would mix the soil and the mud. I mean, this is ancient times. They were desperate. And made by the urine to a plaster and then rub it on the private parts. And then another author, so you know how we're like all about our crystals today. Instead of using a crystal, they would find a stone found in the gizzard of the belly of an ostrich, and they would wear it around their neck to help them to get an erection for like old men. But anyway, so that is pretty much...
I'm so grossed out right now. My face is like twisted. Ew.
Sorry, I don't know why, but my twisted mind had to go there and had to look into this stuff.
No, I'm curious too, but the body
curiosity got the best
of
me for sure.
Oh. I can deal with honey until the bees come around and sting your dick, but like,
I didn't even think about that.
Not okay.
Okay, back to witches though. I just had to go on that little tangent because I was like,
but like, so think about it. There's probably these like hot little like women training to be priestesses. They probably get an erection because these women are hot and mysterious.
I don't know though. Were people hot back then? Because I just imagine everyone being smelly.
You're so right. They probably were.
Or I guess everyone probably smelled bad, so they just didn't know any better.
But I don't know. Think about it. Like, maybe it really was just because they were turned on by this strange woman or another woman other than their
that could be the
partner
case.
Or mate.
That could. So there are two different theories as to why these wise women became demonized. Okay. So sounds like it was like worship women are the greatest, and that all is going to change. So the first theory is linked to events before the birth of Jesus Christ.
Romans. Romans, right?
Indo-Europeans expanded westward, and society started to value warrior aggression and male gods of war.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is that Hebrews influenced a male-centric and monotheistic culture. And then Hebrews also, they had a really strong belief system that witches were very dangerous.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
And for the Western world, the concept of what a witch is mostly based on what is explained in the Old Testament. So this is my first time
in the Old Testament. It's actually in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in the Old Testament, there are laws that prohibit people from practicing witchcraft and communicating with witches. And there's even a story in the Bible. So here's me doing a little Bible research. Who am I?
You 3 years away. How'd you find it? Which, by the way, I told her she's going to get cursed for donating it.
Oh, yeah, I did get gifted a Bible for my wedding, and it had me and Corey's names engraved on the Bible. And it was from his sweet godmother, and we were like, we don't know what to do with this, and I feel like I shouldn't be if his family listens to it, but me and Corey donated it.
Yeah, bad juju, girl. I've been telling you this shit for years.
Yeah, so hopefully there's another Amy and Corey out there who are religious and enjoying it. In the story, there's a king, King Saul. I have no idea who he is, obviously from my...
Solomon.
No, it's Saul.
Oh, like S-A-L? Like Better Call?
S-A-U-L, Saul.
Better Call Saul.
I don't know who he is and if he's important to the Bible, but it said the story is that he reached out to a witch to communicate to the dead for him. And then he died the next day along with his family. And it's pretty much like a cautionary tale for their followers. Like, hey, don't do this. Around the 16th century to the 10th century, the Christian churches did not conduct witch trials. Actually, certain branches of the religion outlawed the beliefs in witches. Most Christians believed during this time period that witches weren't real. But this all changed with a few key players throughout the Middle Ages.
Okay.
Another event that really sparked witch hunts is in the 1300s, the Black Plague killed 1 out of every 3 people in Europe.
Damn.
Yeah. Crazy, right? A lot of Europeans believed that the plague was caused by the devil and his worshippers, and most of society believed witches had a pact with the devil.
Right.
And at the same time, the Catholic Church was seeking out and punishing people who believed caused the plague, which include alleged witches.
Got it. Yeah, of course, all about power and male dominance.
Mm-hmm. So the Catholic Church described witches as people who worshipped in the wee hours of the night, and during their assemblies, they would perform various social acts that wouldn't be accepted by the church. So they would promiscuous sex.
Ooh.
They would dance naked.
Yes.
This part you might not say yes to. They would eat flesh of human infants.
No, they wouldn't. That is made up by the church.
This is what they thought. So the belief wasn't only limited to Catholics. People believed that the devil would actually, I like this, would appear at the worship assemblies, and the witches would basically have an orgy with the devil.
Cool.
Get it?
No, fuck that. I don't, nope. Nobody heard me say that. Just kidding. I don't want to fuck with the devil. Fuck that. Fuck that.
They felt like they needed to save the church, and they believed that they were saving these devil followers, and it was up to them to tame these sexually wild women.
Of course. Yeah. Always about repressing women's rights, sexuality, and autonomy.
Yes, exactly. I mean, all of this, and I'll get into it, it's basically a war on women.
Ugh.
So in 1486, this led to 2 well-known German Catholic writers writing a book called Malleus Maleficarum.
Nice accent.
It's German, so I probably didn't say it right.
No, I think you did. I don't know. I don't speak German, even though I'm German.
Yeah.
But
I know a little German.
Maleficum? How'd you say it?
I don't know. Let's just move on. I don't know how to say it. But it translates to the hammer of witches. So the book was basically a guide on how to identify, hunt, and interrogate witches. The book sold more copies than any other book in Europe for 100 years apart from the Bible. And that's like thanks to the printing press at that time.
So essentially allowing genocide to happen of innocent women.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Matricide. Isn't that what that's called? Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah, and it's one of the main contributors to why so many witches were put to death in Europe.
Wow.
And the hammer of witches motivated the Protestants and Catholics to seek out and get rid of anyone they thought may be a witch in society. And I want to definitely mention that there were other manuals that existed before this book, but this is the first book that actually mentioned gender to be associated with a witch.
Oh.
So this is like kind of started the whole war on women.
Yep. Bastards.
And in the Hammer of Witches, it declares that women are ultimately more susceptible to possession from demons, as well as more prone to lash out using witchcraft just on the basis of assumed female characteristics, such as having a loose tongue.
Oh, well, guess I would be, my tongue would be cut clear off.
And that women lack physical strength.
Okay. I'm triggered again. I'm going to just listen.
Yeah, Krista's our fiery one in the house, so she goes...
0 to hundo.
0, yeah, exactly. Sometimes I would be like, okay, let's bring it down a notch, Krista.
No, you can't hear it, but my like face and energy right now is like steaming.
And so it was basically like I keep saying a war on women, and it was a war on women who didn't fit into society norms. If a woman used like alternative medicines or did anything that wasn't readily accepted by the church, they could easily be considered a target. So it's kind of like a way to get rid of the outcasts of society.
Yeah, exactly.
So before this book, the common punishment for someone who was convicted of a witchcraft was to have them publicly shamed in the stocks. Okay. So the stocks, it's like you can imagine, it's like...
Yeah, you're like this.
It's instead of like your arms and head being in a board cut out, it was actually your ankle and wrist.
Oh, so like, awful.
Yeah, so because my family's from England, so we've gone to visit quite a few times, and we've gone to like it's amazing. When you go to Europe, you should definitely go.
I'm going to visit you and your family.
Yeah, but there's all these old castles, and you get to go into the torture chambers and actually see I mean, it's horrific, but
heart.
It's like a morbid curiosity.
Yeah, I would go.
Seeing all the contraptions and devices they have.
Ugh.
But yeah, so it would bound their ankles and wrists, and these boards were fixed to a pole.
Ugh.
And people would come by, and it was like you know what I mean? Like when you imagine medieval times, they're kicking them, throwing food at them. People would insult them, spit on them.
Ugh.
Which sounds like nothing compared to the other punishments people received after this book was published.
Okay.
So between the years 1500 and 1660, 80,000 suspected witches were executed.
80,000?
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
How the fuck was the population even that big?
Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah. I didn't even really think about that. Oh, my God. And around 80% of them were women. A lot of them were single women, along with widows or any woman that would be considered to be an outcast, like I mentioned.
A spinster, of course.
Yeah. And even when men faced allegations of witchcraft, it was typically because they were associated with an accused woman.
Ugh.
And this next part really blew my mind. So Germany and France had the highest witchcraft execution rate, while Ireland had the lowest. In Würzburg, Germany, the people who were in power decided that the town was possessed by the devil, which led to so many witch hunts that there were no women left in the town.
Oh my God.
And this isn't the only town in Germany this happened in.
The fuck's wrong with Germany?
Yeah, but also, like, to me, it makes no sense getting rid of all the women, because how are you going to reproduce?
Right. Stupid ass men. Fuck you. I don't know why that came out, but it did.
Are we 3 again now?
On you.
Thousands of people were arrested and brought to the Inquisitor for examination. The accused people were stripped and searched. If they even found a suspicious-looking mole, wart, or birthmark, heaven forbid.
Well, I got moles all over the place.
I know.
And freckles, so.
That they could, and that would be enough of a reason to receive a death sentence. Like, so I'm sure they're probably going after people who maybe were disabled. I'm assuming like on the way they look, you know what I mean?
So not only is it sexism, it's ableism.
Mm-hmm.
The fuck? Like, enough's enough. Like, I don't...
Well, I think all of this shows you, like, I know we all know this, and I'm kind of saying something that's common sense, but there's such deep roots into how society is today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that shaped how we are today. But they would...
Thanks, England.
England. I agree. When you look at England's history, they have like... My mom always says she's embarrassed sometimes to be from England from their history.
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm embarrassed of my German heritage.
Yeah, because like they dominated so many countries and decimated so many cultures, but they would torture these women, and because they weren't allowed to actually execute them unless they confessed. That was a rule that was in place, but they were basically torturing them to get them to confess.
Right? Yeah. Which is still common practice today, unfortunately, in jailhouse, like or what do you call it? Investigations. Like people still torture, quote unquote,
or they use like psychological tactics.
Exactly. Anyway.
They would use instruments such as thumbs and legs and screws, head clamps, and other horrific torture devices. Just don't try to even imagine it.
No.
The hammer of the witches instructed that the torturer shouldn't make eye contact with the accused witch because their evil powers could cause the torturer to have feelings of compassion. Let that sink in for a second.
Okay.
It wasn't until the 18th century that witch hysteria and executions finally died down, and which I just realized is kind of a terrible pun. So now that is kind of like a brief overview of like what they all went through, and so now I kind of want to dive into earlier the iconic Halloween witch costumes and like why we have these associations.
Okay.
So this might surprise a lot of people, but actually the first witch that ever confessed to riding a broom was actually a man. His name was Edelin, and he was a priest that was from the outskirts of Paris. He was arrested in 1453 and tried for witchcraft after he publicly criticized the church about statements and warnings that had been made about witches. He was, again, like I mentioned, tortured until he confessed to being a witch and was then imprisoned for life. So he wasn't executed, but...
Okay. Do we know why he chose to ride a broom?
No, we don't. It's just like records say that he confessed.
Okay, which he probably didn't even do, but just confessed.
My next paragraph will kind of explain it, though. So the idea of witches riding brooms was already a popular time when he...
Oh, I see. Okay.
When the priest confessed.
Got it.
Yeah. So historians believe that the association between witches and brooms may be because of a pagan fertility ritual that they used to perform.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah.
A lot of wise women, like I mentioned at the top, the ones who are like delivering babies, midwives.
So medical women.
Yeah.
Why would so not only why would the fuck would you want to get rid of your women so you can't procreate, but why the fuck would you want to get rid of your medical personnel? Like I'm pissed. I'm still pissed. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and that's why like I kind of said earlier, like historians were really puzzled, like where did this shift happen? And there's nowhere you can pinpoint it. But originally it wasn't that way. At least in Middle East culture. We don't know about, I can't speak to everywhere.
Anything else. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But wise women, their professions were ultimately just misunderstood. And they're like being accused of being a witch. And farmers tend to dance with pitchforks and brooms during a full moon to encourage the growth of crops.
Got it.
It was often called a broomstick dance. This ritual caused people to start rumors that witches were flying on broomsticks. They're evil, like devil-worshipping assemblies where they would have like orgies, dance naked, have fun, sounds like. Apart from the devil showing up.
Great. Yes, apart from that, I'm good.
In the Middle Ages, alleged witches would concoct their own brews of hallucinogenic plants. According to historical records, they would eat or drink these potions, or they wouldn't eat or drink it, but they would absorb it through their skin. And they alluded to the fact that they would put it in their hairy, like, private parts.
Oh.
Yeah. And in a 15th century text, a theologian wrote about how witches would mount their staff and ride on it and digest the drugs that way, too. Are you absorbing what I'm saying?
So they're using a broom handle as like
they put the drug on
vibrator?
Not a vibrator, as a means to absorb the drugs.
Yeah,
we don't know if it's true.
Who wants splinters in their pussy? I'm good.
That's not... Okay, anyway, moving on.
Wait, well, I'm envisioning it like they put the CBD or whatever oil on...
You say CBD, like a CBD back in the day?
They did probably without knowing it. whatever, on the broom, and then they, like, shove it up there.
No, they're writing it.
Oh.
Your head always goes to the...
How the fuck can you absorb it just from writing it?
This is not probably true. This is what people are saying.
Okay.
You're getting a little carried away with... like, what people... Like, we know a lot of this isn't real. Like,
Got it.
They weren't having orgies. Should I tell you, Krista? They
weren't having orgies with the devil. Damn. Ruined my dream.
They also believe that witches would use these broomsticks to fly up and out of their chimney. That's not real, Krista. No, just kidding.
Santa. Santa
maybe
Claus.
that's where Santa came from. No, it was actually a custom at the time for women to leave a broomstick outside a door or inside the chimney to let people know they weren't at home.
Oh.
No one else ever confessed to riding a broomstick apart from this priest.
Okay.
So they don't have any other record. So whenever we picture a witch, I'm sure, and you're getting your Halloween outfit, the first thing you must get is a pointy hat. And during the Middle Ages, pointed hats were associated with the Jewish religion and Satan. A popular Jewish ritual called, is it Kabbalah? Am I saying it right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Made others believe that Jews had magical powers and were working with the devils. So anti-Semitism comes in here.
Absolutely. Which, ironically, you said they didn't believe in witches.
It was, yeah.
And yeah,
it was not, they didn't believe in it. It was like outlawed.
Right. But yet now they're being casted as it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the anti-Semitism at work way back then.
In the 1200s in Hungary, Jews were required to wear a pointy hat. The hat was called a Juden hat, which really translates to a Jewish hat, which became a symbolism for anti-Semitism, like I just mentioned. And during the witch hunts, they would make accused witches wear them as punishment. Another interesting tidbit for all my beer lovers is that women who brew beer at home had a reputation of being a witch.
Why?
Now I'm sure how have the tables turned? Because I'm sure men love any woman who would brew beer.
That's right. What the fuck? So then they go to the Jews instead of their own woman. They blame the Jews. Fuck, of course. Oh, fucking course.
They would call them ale, like the beer, alewives, and they were suspected of being herbalists, which was associated with magic, and these herbalists often wore a pointy hat when they were punished.
Wow.
In America, accused witches did not wear pointy hats. I do want to bring that up.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It wasn't considered an essential part of a witch's wardrobe until the Wizard of Oz book came out in the 1900, and then the movie came out in 1939. So that's when we really made the association of witches with a pointy hat.
Okay.
After the 16th century, the church started to associate pointy shoes, like you can imagine your typical stiletto.
Love me a pointy stiletto, pointy toe.
With sex and sin. And because it prevented women, they were against it because it prevented women from being able to kneel at the altar.
Also how the tables have turned, because now stilettos are made for the pleasure of men. Our torture, still our fucking torture in our feet and our ankles and our toes, for the pleasure of men. I'm fucking pissed again.
I mean, you don't have to wear them, though.
Yeah, but
I don't wear.
I hate
wearing.
Unfortunately, I will admit they do make me feel sexy.
Well, yeah. I mean, you wear them a little bit for yourself. They even started to call them Satan's claws, and this is another essential iconic part of the modern day's witch's outfit. And now we're going to talk about cats. So we all know that cats have been depicted as a supernatural companion for witches. In Norse, which is Scandinavian mythology, there's a goddess that would ride a chariot that would be pulled by magical cats. This particular goddess was in charge of death and the afterlife and was known for practicing witchcraft. During the witch hysteria, women would be accused of being a witch sometimes if they owned a cat, and they even believed sometimes that cats were witches in disguise. So there are endless associations and historical reasoning behind the witch we picture today. I mean, I could have went on and on and on and on and on. I found it really fascinating. But for the sake of time, I'm going to fast forward to today's modern witch of the Western world. So most modern day witches practice Wicca, which is recognized as an official religion in the United States and Canada. Wiccans still struggle with historical stereotypes, but their motto is to harm none, and they ultimately strive to live in a peaceful, tolerant, balanced life in tune with nature and humanity.
I will touch on that in my case.
Awesome. Yeah, I learned a little bit about Wicca, but I don't know a whole lot. But many Wiccans still practice witchcraft that are from their Book of Shadows, which is the 20th century collection of wisdom and witchcraft. And people compare their witchcraft to the ritual of other religions that use prayer. So like them doing witchcraft is like their sacred ritual.
Yep.
And today, most practicing witches use spells as a way to hope for good fortune for others.
Mm-hmm. I got a whole witch box, mystery box from my friend who is a practicing Wicca, Courtney, who has her own apothecary, which is amazing. And I will shout it out on IG.
Well, do you know the name of it?
Oh, please.
No, it's okay. we'll shout it on Instagram. But witches, whether they actually claim to be a witch or they're accused of being a witch, still can face persecution.
Crimson Sage. That's it. I'm so sorry. It just popped into my head.
So they can still face persecution and death. Several women and men suspected of witchcraft have been beaten and killed in Papua New Guinea. Am I saying that right?
I'm not positive.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Since 2010. Also, similar acts of violence or death occur in places like Africa, South America, the Middle East, and certain immigrant communities in Europe and the United States. That really is my story. I absolutely love learning about the history of witches. And I'm really glad we split this up into 3 episodes because, like I said at the top, there's so much information to cover.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's so fascinating. And I feel like it really kind of explains a lot of reasons like why society is the way it is today, a little bit like our roots, learning
kind of goes
information
into our voodoo episode that we'll be covering later in November, but where voodoo is seen as black and dark because it's unknown, and it really just stems from essentially a PR campaign against women again. So
yeah. And we are now, I have no idea what Krista's case is about. So she did warn me it's a little sad.
It's sad. I'm starting out humorously, so I hope you enjoy my tie to it. But the actual facts of the case are pretty sad. So, remember back when Florida Man meme was a thing?
Oh, 100%. I remember like being so bored at work. Me and one of my coworkers were like Googling. I was told to Google my birthday, and then you could see like what would pop up for Florida Man. So if you haven't done that yet, I definitely recommend it. If you're bored as hell at work, just put your birthday in, put Florida Man, and then you're going to see like the most insane articles.
Chances are a Florida man did something whack on your birthday. And I've got 2 for us that I'll read in just a minute. But I legitimately thought Florida Man was in COVID times. In the height of lockdown, me slowly going insane, living alone, in the midst of my divorce and the fucking pandemic.
Wait, you didn't think Florida Man existed before COVID?
No, I thought it was like
Girl, Florida is like known to be the most batshit crazy place. Like there's a drinking game you can play, and it's either, shout out to our home state, did it happen in Arizona or Florida? And I swear it's like God. The sun makes people crazy.
I think it does. It fries our brains or something.
I'm interested to see what this has to do with your case.
Yeah, it does. It does.
The Florida Man practicing witch?
Maybe,
okay, I think
maybe. But because
detective.
Yeah, anyway. So after researching this, came to find out it was hella before COVID. I'm just in this weird-ass warped time zone era. So Florida Man actually became a thing, as you know, pre-pandemic or the before times.
Yeah, that's been, I don't know.
Yeah, it made its headway March 2019, so a year before lockdown. And so for those of you who basically...
When was it, March 19th?
Yeah, 2019.
Okay, cool.
And so if you blacked out the before times like I did, as I just alluded to, this is a general brief description of the Florida Man meme from knowyourmeme.com. Florida Man is a Twitter feed that curates news headlines and descriptions of bizarre domestic incidents involving a male subject residing in the state of Florida. The tweets are meant to be read humorously, as if they were perpetrated by a single individual dubbed the world's worst superhero.
I'm already loving this because Florida Man is awesome.
Yeah, and so as Amy said, the challenge became a game trending across Twitter and all social platforms where you Google Florida Man followed by your birth date, doesn't have to have the year, and then you'll rip a headline again from a weirdo man in Florida who did something off the wall.
So I'm understanding correctly, because I didn't actually know. I just knew to Google Florida man, but so it's actually a competition, like who had the craziest tweet, right?
I think so. I didn't get that far into it, but it just became a whole compilation. In fact, there was like a digital book published of all the funniest ones.
Oh my God, it kind of reminds me of like The Onion. I want it.
Yeah, it does. I love The Onion so much. So I took the liberty of Googling ours. So Amy's headline. Okay. So Amy's headline reads, from the Miami Herald. Florida man arrested for attacking girlfriend with a cheeseburger.
Oh my God. I'm surprised I've never done that to someone before.
Well, listen, last week you were talking about how much you wanted a cheeseburger, so I thought it was fucking perfect.
Oh, that's amazing.
So he was taken to Martin County Jail. A court date has been set for May 30th.
Aw,
and
my
your
birthday.
And mine reads from Fox 40 in Pensacola, Florida. It was actually reported on October 5th, 2019, my birthday. Florida man mistakenly shoots and kills son-in-law in birthday surprise gone wrong. Oh no, I better not be my birthday.
That's a horrible birthday surprise.
No shit. Oh my God.
Oh
my God. Like, oh man. So I might get murdered on my birthday by accident, and you might kill a bitch with a cheeseburger.
We don't live in Florida, thankfully.
Arizona.
I know, but Florida's like COVID
coast.
central. I do not want to go there anytime soon.
I know. One of my former colleagues was talking about it because our vendor was in Orlando, I think, and she was saying how it was just rampant again.
Well, Corey's family just went there, and I was like, tell them to wear their mask. I'm nervous.
Shit, especially for his dad. Oh my
yeah.
God. Okay. All right. So what the fuck does Florida man, you kind of touched on it, have to do with westernized witches or Wicca?
I just thought you want to talk about Florida man.
All day long. No.
That would be a fun podcast idea.
It would be.
Yeah.
So what do you call it? Spoof? Spin-off. There's the word I'm looking for. Okay. So one of the first headlines I got when I Googled the Blue Moon murders, which is what I am covering, was from the ledger.com. Jury finds Florida man guilty of killing mother-brother in the Blue Moon murder case. So my guy was a Florida man.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
As you can tell, though, from that headline, there's absolutely no humor in that Florida man's headline. And sadly, the facts of this triple murder are just as dark and disturbing.
Well, yeah, I can imagine if you're killing your family, that's pretty dark.
Yeah, it's not good. This Florida man who committed these murders is named Donald Hartung Sr. And before
Hartung?
Yeah, like it's a really funky last name.
Yeah,
Hartung.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's not my last name.
Before I get into how he killed his mother and two half-brothers, I will tell you a little bit more about his background. There really isn't too much about him, other than the connection here being he was a solo practicing Wiccan. Excuse me. He was kind of a loner, older man.
Aren't they all?
Right. Exactly. And he... So again, practicing Wicca solo, just on his own, as you mentioned, peaceful, right? That's a peaceful religion, not one that worships the devil.
I know, like I was just trying to fight for the Wiccans. I'm like, they're peaceful, nice people.
They really are, from what I know, and the Wiccans I do.
I mean, yeah, but any group's gonna have some extremist or someone who gives the group a bad rep. Like,
right.
I'm sure Muslims are like, yep.
Oh, well, absolutely. I just watched the 9/11 documentary, and
is it worth watching?
Yeah, sad.
I'm sure it's very heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I totally digress. So Donald Hartung Sr., again, little bit of a loner, middle-aged-ish, over the hill, I'd say, man. And
had some gray hair.
Yeah, definitely. He's a little overweight, and practice Wicca, as I said. That's important to the case because, as I said, this became known as the Blue Moon murders of Pensacola, or around Pensacola area. The one thing that I would say about him that's positive, the only thing I'd say that's positive, since he was eventually convicted of these crimes, this triple murder of his mother and two half-brothers, he did, before this incident, go over regularly once a week to cook for the family.
Okay. Nice.
Okay. And you may be wondering, okay, so why the hell did two other grown men live with their mother.
Yeah, I didn't even really question that, actually.
Yeah, so the two...
Were they millennials? Because
No, they were older as well.
Okay, I was going to say millennials. I understand if you're living at home with your parents because student loans and all that stuff, it's made it a little rough for us.
Yeah, no effing shit. One of my major sources on this today, by the way, was the A&E documentary from their true crime blog, was Witchcraft to Blame for Florida's Blue Moon Triple Murder, as well as many others, but I will source them in the document. So, we know he was a loner, but he did, one redeeming quality that we do know from Hartung is that he did go over to his mother's house and help feed and clean a little bit.
Okay.
Here and there. So, the bodies of... in 2015, the bodies of 77-year-old Von Sell Smith and her two adult sons, Richard Smith, 47, and John Smith, 49, were found dead in their Pensacola home. Again, this was in 2015, July. It gets pretty bad. When detectives arrived on scene, all three were struck multiple times with a claw hammer. Ugh.
Damn.
And had their throats slit.
God. That's awful.
Yeah. Richard Smith, the eldest brother, had also been shot in the head.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it was really sad. They were a really reclusive family. This Hartung did not live with them. Again, he's half brother to the other two. Von Stille is his full mother, but the three of them lived together, and they would really just essentially, it's really sad. It's so fucking sad. Again, A&E. You've watched the show Hoarders.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, when I was watching the documentary on this on A&E, True Murders, I believe it was called. Sorry. Anyway, the crime scene was just nasty. Like,
I mean, slitting a throat.
Well, not only because of the bodies, but because it was like Hoarders.
Oh,
so
okay. The house is like...
The house was in shambles. There was shit everywhere. Boxes stacked up on boxes, clothes thrown around.
We have a hoarder. My neighbor actually told me, because they've lived here for like 30 plus years, that her son went to high school with one of the people that live on the corner. And she told me they're hoarders. And I kind of already thought that because they opened their garage one day and there was like boxes up to the ceiling. And they weirdly have like aluminum foil on their windows and like 3 broken down cars in their backyard. And
what does aluminum foil have to do with?
I don't know if that's so to like block out the sun, but it's trashy. But me and Corey walked by because you can kind of see in their backyard, and our backyards aren't big because we're kind of in like the suburbs and kind of close to each other. And they have literally like 3 broken down cars in their yard. I'm like, if you just remove the cars, you could actually have a yard.
Trigger.
Yeah.
Don't bring that up right now, girl. Speaking of shitty birthdays.
But anyway, on to onwards and better. You're going to have a great birthday this year.
Yes, I'm super stoked, especially because of this birth of Bewitched Banter. So... the triple murder was disgusting, as I said. Not only was it horrific with slit throats and bashed in heads from a claw hammer and a gunshot to one of the victims, it was an absolute mess of the house. State of disarray. Just like the show Hoarders. Boxes everywhere. Tinfoil, as you were saying, on windows. Clothes just randomly stacked, like heaps of clothes.
I mean, I've watched Hoarders, so I totally have the visual.
Exactly. And for those of you who do, you know exactly what I'm seeing, and I'll post some photos of the scene that you can see on IG, but it was sad. So in the midst of not only this horrific crime scene and the blood evidence and the mess of the home itself, the bodies were positioned very purposefully, it seemed, and very oddly around the house. And apparently the murders that happened in July 2015, they occurred on a blue moon. It just so happened to occur on a blue moon.
Okay, dumb question, but what is a blue moon again?
It's when you have a full moon twice in 1 month.
Okay.
Yeah, not a dumb question at all. And so, of course, Sheriff Morgan of Pensacola basically used that because he was up for re-election as a Wicca tie. Like, oh, this suspect practices Wicca. Oh, this must be some ritual slaying. And made it such that Hartung killed his mother and half-brothers as a ritualistic killing on a blue moon.
So the sheriff is up for re-election, and he's kind of like going out, I'm assuming like public speeches and trying to making like Wicca religion the enemy.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. And so hence the Blue Moon Murders was what it was dubbed.
Okay.
All because Hartung was a practicing Wiccan.
That's so ironic because, I don't know if ironic's the word, because whenever there's a mass shooting, which always tends to happen by like a male.
My hometown, next door. God rest everybody that I know that was involved in, in that. So, Connecticut.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Newtown.
But, like, they don't ever shout out, like, Christian shooter. You know what I mean? It's just because he was in, like, a minority religion that all of a sudden that becomes the tagline.
Exactly. And it's because this motherfucker was up for a re-election, used that as a pulpit to get popularity around this case. I'm going to solve this case.
Well, it's kind of like Trump. Like, it seems like more people decide to band together, unfortunately, when it comes to, like, hating a certain group of people or a certain idea, more than, like, I feel like that whole Trump era was, like, not about, like, let's make things better. It's like, I hate these people, let's get rid of them. Or I hate this group, let's outcast them, basically.
Yep, exactly. The saddest part was that his eldest brother, Richard, took care of the younger brother that they both lived with the home. And the younger brother, I believe, had some type of mental ailment or disability.
Well, I'm assuming if you're a hoarder, you kind of have some kind of issue anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the family probably had some kind of mental issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably as a collective unit too, the three of them.
Yeah, if all three people were condoning it or letting it happen.
Yeah. But sadly, he took time off of his really high-profile job at the Department of Homeland Security to care for his mother and brother. And got shot in the head by his other brother.
Wow.
Yeah. Really, really fucking sad. Like I said, I was warning you about what comes next. Hartung is brought in for questioning, and he is quoted as saying, "I would never do that to my family. I would never. Who would do such a thing?" And his demeanor is so bizarre, and you can clearly tell there's something.
Yeah, he's not right.
Not right either, right? But so the DNA evidence, unfortunately, was damning, even though the sheriff did try to tie it to the motive to this Wicca tie. Nothing to do with it. That was just, again, a publicity stunt by the sheriff. The DNA evidence did prove that Hartung's had several smoked cigarettes whose this is awful, whose butts had been left atop the bodies of and bloody rags that had been used to clean up the scene.
So he's not a smart criminal.
Not a smart guy.
Yeah.
So clearly, he was then sentenced to trial or had a trial. And they found him guilty on all 3 counts of premeditated first-degree murder on January 29th, 2020.
Okay.
So
it's crazy to me how long the court system takes to find someone guilty. I can't think of her name right now. The girl who claimed, she's the girl who didn't blink, and she claimed that she had this magic machine at, like, Walgreens. You do like a prick of your blood.
Oh, Elizabeth Holmes.
Yeah, she's now finally in trial, and I feel like that happened forever ago.
It did. I've been re-listening actually to that podcast called Elizabeth Holmes: The Trials.
Yeah, and I just can't believe it took them this long to get to it. But it tells, I guess, obviously, the system must be so backed up.
So backed up, and then COVID obviously was pushed back.
True. Yeah,
right. Like a whole year of cases. God knows how many cases around the country, were delayed, and poor victims and families delayed justice because of COVID. But anyway, moving back on to he was found guilty of all 3 murders. He's currently serving his sentence at the Graceville Correctional Facility in Jackson County. Other damning evidence, though, back to the Wicca tie really quick before we wrap it up, is that a jailbird was brought to the stand named Marlon Purifoy, who claimed that while awaiting trial, all the inmates were fearful of Hartung because they considered him a witch.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So is
that cool?
No one fucks with you, right? If that's a good defense mechanism in jail.
That's true.
Right?
Damn, keep that in mind if any of us end up in jail, just say you practice Wicca.
Yeah, exactly. And you a witch. Now, Purifoy claims that Hartung actually confessed to him, saying that he did it, and he did it for the cold, hard cash, which also comes into play as the actual motive. It's reported that Bonsil, Hartung's mother, cut him out of the will of about 8.
Wait, I'm a little bit confused. So the man who killed his family was cut out of the will?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry. Yep. Exactly. And for like 800K-ish, upward towards that.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it kind of is. But obviously...
not enough money to, like, actually...
kill your family.
Yeah.
But Purifoy quotes from this AETV article says, he wanted the money, Purifoy said, adding that Hartung had planned the crime for more than 3 years and had tortured his mother to gain access to a
3 years? And he's going over and cooking the meals every week?
Yeah, man. Isn't that... that's terrible.
Wow. That's a whole different level of messed up. Because I thought maybe it was like the fact that it's premeditated for that long. And you're going over there and like being night, playing family with going over and cooking meals, taking care of them.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So again, he got saved in jail because of his Wiccan beliefs, and they believe he practiced black magic, so they were scared of him in jail. He was originally sentenced to life, but he instead received the 3 consecutive life sentences he was convicted of death row.
Okay.
Sorry, sentenced. It was on the table, death row. But then he only got convicted of 3 consecutive life sentences. And like I said, he is currently serving at the Graceville Correctional Facility in Jackson County, Florida. Sadly, the Blue Moon Murders still carries that moniker. And I think it's really sad because, you know, I love moons and stars and anything astrology or astronomy related. And it's like, there's no ritual sacrifices in Wicca of humans.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be a peaceful religion.
It is.
The whole premise of it.
Just because this fucking sheriff, Morgan, wanted to get press for himself, blew this whole thing up, tied to Wicca and human sacrifice.
Well, we're seeing that happen today. I mean, like, Death DeSantis, is that what we call him? Like, he is trying to rally up his troops and make a political statement by not taking care of his state, and it's costing people's lives.
Yeah,
so, like, political people do it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, they'll do anything for their name, not really what's right for the people.
Absolutely.
And again, that is just a man seeing an opportunity. Hey, this is a minority group.
Yep.
People don't understand. A lot of people don't understand what Wicca is.
Yep.
And this is a great way. Let's demonize someone. Because it's like, if you can rally your troops up and have someone you're targeting as the evil person, it gets people on you. It's like you're a team.
Yeah.
Like, go our team. Let's destroy the enemy kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And once more, the sheriff believed that the witchcraft may have been involved just because of the positioning of the bodies. They were in separate rooms. They were buried under, as I mentioned, large piles of clothing. And the fact of the killings had been committed only a few days prior to a blue moon. Which was the second full moon of the calendar month, as I said. And once more, experts in modern pagan religion and its subset Wicca denounced this assertion, and they were very quick to point out that ritual murder has absolutely no place in nature-based religion, which is Wicca.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, again, the moniker stuck, and that's a wrap for Donald Hartung Sr., who is the triple homicide murderer of his family. A little very dark. I apologize. But don't think that this is Wicca, please, because it's not. Like I said, it's a nature-based religion. So
I like how you did a modern story, because now we're gonna totally turn back time.
Ooh.
And turn back time. And my story, I could not believe what I was reading last night when I was doing my research. So I'm pretty excited to tell you this. I told Krista my story is almost like a movie. I was like, what is this? I can't believe I've never heard of this before. And why didn't they teach me this in history class? Because I would have been on the edge of my seat.
So your person is inherently shitty. 100%, right?
Oh, yeah. We'll get to it. It's going to be a fun ride.
My guy clearly wasn't a great person. He's a murderer of his family, but at least he attempted to take care of his family prior to the decision of murdering him.
I disagree, though, because he said he had this planned it for 3 years. So let's not even try to excuse him.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. Anyway, he's serving time, so that's good. Justice was served.
There's some justice served. For my story, I will be covering a witch named Catherine Montvoison.
Ooh.
And she is usually referred to Montvoison. That name will all make sense in a little bit. But for my sake, and to make it easier on myself, I'm going to be calling her Catherine. And she is known to be one of the most talented and skilled poisoners of all time.
Whoa.
She almost nearly took down the French monarchy and almost succeeded in killing King Louis XIV. Krista's jaw is dropping. Yeah. I told you, it's crazy. This story's crazy. She would kill her victims for profit. It is estimated that she murdered at least 1,000 people, but some historians believe she killed even more, and some people estimate her number of victims was around 2,500.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Was she a nurse or something? Get in there?
I'll get there. Let me get to it, okay? She mostly targeted rich people, and this all happened between the years of 1670 and 1680. And I know you don't know who she is because by your reaction.
Yeah, I never heard of this.
Yeah, and so
Cool.
she's actually like one of the most successful serial killers of all time, which that's why I was kind of also floored we didn't know this, because me and Krista have like a true love of, true love of true crime. Yeah, true love of true crime. And so when I came across this story, I was like, whoa. And just buckle up, guys. So Catherine was...
Well, and then a serial killer, a female serial killer.
Yeah, like another twist there. So Catherine was born around 1640, and there isn't much information about her upbringing. But we know she grew up poor, and it sounds like she had a really rough childhood. At the age of 20, she married a merchant named Antoine Montvoison. He owned a jewelry shop and was also a silk merchant in Paris. His business wasn't successful, and he ended up becoming bankrupt. Catherine refused to be poor because as an adult, she knew that her whole childhood she had spent her life struggling to make ends meet. She's like, this is not going to be my life. She had to support a family of 6, including her husband, her mother, and her children.
Okay.
And I do want to note, this is a special thing we have to bring up. Catherine was an alcoholic and was known for having several lovers.
Hey.
Yeah.
Maybe me soon. I don't want to become the murderer, though. Murderess.
You might have several lovers soon. You're going to be on the dating scene. Mm-hmm. Some of her lovers' professions were the following. She was with an executioner, an alchemist, a magician, and a priest. Scandalous.
Oh, hot. I would totally do a priest in a church, by the way.
Is this like goals right here?
Oh my God, confessional sex. Oof. Okay.
And it is reported that one of her lovers, the magician, he actually tried to convince her to kill her husband. And
God.
Yeah, she didn't go through with it though. So as a way to make money, she soon became a palm reader and fortune teller for the elite circles of the French aristocrats.
Hey.
Almost as a way to brand herself and give the illusion that she came from money. She wore a red velvet outfit. It was embroidered with golden eagles and gold thread.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, so fancy. And while she was working.
She was probably reading all those tarot cards I will cover in tarot.
Yeah, and it was she wanted to give the illusion she came from money, so people of money would seek her out, or had money would seek her out.
Got it.
She was an herbalist and would make concoctions if someone had a headache or if someone was having trouble with their lover. She was a midwife and very scandalous at this current time. She learned how to give women abortions.
Oh, girl, trigger. My sister is an OBGYN, y'all, and she would have been murdered back in the day.
Yeah, and I think...
Or witchcraft.
We're going to... In this story, I have some feelings. Obviously, this is all historic, but some of it's who's telling this story, how true it is. And
sure.
You might get angry again. Just heads up.
Okay. Well, that's par for the course. Sorry, listeners. It's just what you're getting into with this gal.
And she covered up her services, she would give secret abortions by... being a midwife, right? Giving that service.
Sure.
So when Catherine was arrested and in trial later on in life, a woman told the court that she would actually burn the fetuses in a furnace and bury them in her garden.
That sounds a little fantastical.
Yeah. This is where I'm saying there's certain things you're none of this has been proven to be true. And when King Louis XIV investigated her, he never really looked into this. It was they were worried about other things we'll be talking about.
Did you ever watch Outlander on Netflix?
No.
Super good. But just real quick, she somehow travels back in time in Scotland, and she is an herbalist. Well, she was a nurse in World War II, and somehow goes back in time, and she, like, King Louis tries to convict her of being a witch, but she gets off the hook. It's really good.
I wonder if it's loosely based on her.
Oh, I wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was a book, a very thick book or novel, from what I understand, but they turned it into a series. Really good.
I'll have to check it out.
But it just reminded me of the herbalist, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that's what. Okay, I was questioning if Americans, because in England you say herb, and
oh, you do?
Yeah, and then in America you say herbs. I didn't know if it was herbalist or herbalist for Americans.
You say it English. I'll say it American.
I like herbalist. It makes more sense to me. So of course the church greatly disapproved of Catherine's fortune telling and palm reading. Mm-hmm. But Catherine was very manipulative and very charming. So she was actually able to convince the vicars? Yeah.
I think that's right.
And professors of the university that her divination skills were actually a gift from God. So she convinced them that she was using her talents to help people who were in need. Huh. So that, surprisingly,
smart move.
Yeah,
Catherine.
She is like a businesswoman. She's after it. So the church actually endorsed her business after this conversation.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, which is unheard of. And so she was very successful. So successful that she started doing palm readings and fortune telling for King Louis XIV's mistress.
Oh.
And she became a very popular person in the king's circle, and a lot of people were reaching out to her for help, advice, or, like I said, for secret medical procedures. She is a businesswoman hustling, doing her own thing. She actually grew her own network, kind of like her own little corporation back in the day, fortune tellers in Paris, and became the central figure in the famous scandal called the Affaire des Poisons.
Oh.
So, Affair of Poisons.
Oh.
Her network of workers would provide poison, aphrodisiacs, abortions, magical services, and arrange black masses for aristocrat clients and their friends. And so...
And black masses, you mean dark...
Yeah, so a black mass is basically
masses.
a ceremony, kind of think about a Catholic
Church
mass. It's loosely based off of that. And it's celebrated by satanic groups or people with divination powers.
Okay.
So that's what you call a black mass.
Got it.
But we're going to get into what she did during her black mass, and it is messed up.
And this has proven to be true.
From what... I mean, this is records.
Got it.
You got to take everything with a certain lens.
Well, if it's recorded... More than likely.
Let's discuss it first before we dive into what we think, because I think at the end we can kind of discuss. I definitely have an opinion on it.
Okay, sure.
Catherine started to notice a general theme when she was a fortune teller for the rich. So most of the time, the women were concerned about a lover,
cheating men,
or a lack of a lover. They would confide in her and tell her how they wanted someone to fall in love with them. Sometimes the women would even confess they would like their husbands to die so they could marry someone else. Because at that time, you couldn't get divorced, really, unless you would be a social outcast.
Right.
Or they would want to kill off another person who was competing for the love from the same person. So being the entrepreneur she was, she decided to profit financially off her clients' wishes by offering services of magic to make these wishes come true.
Whoa.
So when she first started palm reading, so she's kind of dabbling, getting in, she would tell her clients that if God wanted it to happen, it would. And then she would often encourage them, go to church, pray, go see a saint.
So smoke and mirrors, very much.
But then it escalated. She soon started to sell good luck charms to her clients because she started to make some money that way.
Hustling.
And then I was top tier package. She would you know what I mean? You have your packages.
MLM in the 1600s.
Yeah, Catherine. Yeah, she was the original founder of MLM. She proceeded to start selling more magical objects, potions, and she even would perform various rituals for her clients. So some of her love powders that she sold included the teeth of moles,
ew,
dust of human remains,
nope,
human blood, and bones of toads. When I was reading this last night, I was kind of thinking about, I feel like it didn't have any of those things. I feel like she probably just proclaimed it did, because I was thinking, it's kind of like when you buy a product off the shelf. It says like a face wash. It's like, only, it has peach.
Natural. No,
mint.
Preservatives.
And it's probably like a drop.
Yeah.
But I feel like she probably upsold it. Do you really think she had like teeth from moles in the
She probably had rocks. Like rocks, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know if she was like upselling it. And the more obscure and crazy it sounded, she could sell it for more. I mean, I'm just kind of guessing.
Sounds like she's a pretty savvy businesswoman, so...
I mean, it's like pretty dramatic, random, ridiculous ingredients. Like, let me mash up this toad for you.
Oh, poor toad.
Anyway, I just kind of thought, like, is that really real? Who knows?
I mean, they did some weird shit, so who knows?
It could be real. This is me being a cynic, obviously. She also made poison, like hence the name, and poisoned several of her clients' enemies.
Ooh. Drama.
And this is where it gets really messed up, and I couldn't believe what I was reading last night. And I was like reading multiple articles, and so when I got to this portion of my research, I had to check multiple articles to be like, oh, is this writer just being crazy? You know what I mean? Like, is this really real? So let me get into it. It's pretty messed up. So during these black masses, she would arrange for clients to pray to Satan for their wishes to come true. She would sometimes have a woman at the altar performing in a bowl placed by the altar. They would then pour blood into the bowl.
Human blood?
Well, this is the messed up part.
Okay.
So they would hold an infant above the bowl, and the blood would be coming from the infant.
How? Did they cut them?
I mean, I didn't get that. I don't think they have record of that. And also, I was like, it's so messed up. I don't even want to read more about it because it's kind of disgusting.
That's awful if it happened.
Yes. And again,
who knows?
Who knows? Because she was giving abortions, I don't know if that's the right phrase I want to use, but you know what I mean? Performing, not giving. Yep. Performing abortion. So, like, I wonder, like, was this a man recording all this information? Catherine had opened a home for single mothers and would help women get rid of unwanted pregnancies, and she would help lower-class ladies get rid of their baby after childbirth.
Okay.
She wouldn't make the lower-class women pay anything. It was almost like a charity service.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she would charge the aristocrat women a fortune to have the procedure done, and that helped fund the charity.
Wow. Okay.
So this is like where
socialism, I kind of dig that.
Yeah, me too. And so these aristocrat women, they didn't care what price they had to pay because it was such a scandal to have a child out of wedlock. And if it was like found, it was like social suicide. Yeah. They're going to be outcast. They're going to be living on the streets.
Yep. Maybe murdered by the father. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I'm going to talk about Catherine's most popular customer, King Louis's mistress. Okay. She reached out to her for help with keeping the king in love with her. She was worried that he may fall in love with a younger woman. She reached out to Catherine multiple times or whenever she felt like she wasn't receiving attention from the king. She would slip aphrodisiacs into the king's nightly beverages. And it was rumored that she loved living in Versailles so much she didn't want to leave.
Yeah, who does?
Yeah. I went in middle school, and it is amazing. You just walk around the grounds, and
I can't wait. One day, I'll be there. I'll be there soon.
So the king did decide that he wanted to get rid of her after a while, and he wanted to replace her with the new, younger, hot mistress.
Of fucking course.
Yes. She then asked Catherine to poison him. Their plan in 1979 almost succeeded, but a chain of unexpected events took everything for a turn.
Ooh.
Yes.
Drama in King Louis's court.
So it all began when a lady and her lover were accused of poisoning and killing her father and brothers so they could inherit the estate. So once the trial started, King 14th was so terrified that he made his servants taste all his meals to make sure there was
I would too.
I know, but it's kind of awful for the people who are like the servants.
You think they gave a shit about their servants?
Well, hell no.
Exactly.
But he basically just wanted to make sure no one was trying to poison him.
Mm-hmm.
And this fueled the fire, and he told the Paris police that they needed to start to conduct a witch hunt. It was reported that King Louis's sister actually ended up being poisoned instead of him by accident.
Is this... Well, you kind of covered it a little bit, but is this where the term witch hunt actually started? Or did they, like... I know if they were literally...
Not from this particular case, but in this time period.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to tell you when the phrase witch hunt
Oh, yeah, no, I was just
started.
curious if, like, since the king is, like, commissioning it, if that's, like, how it became a term.
No, witch hunts were, I think, pretty popular at this time.
Okay.
From the witch hunt, they brought in Marie Bosset, who also was a famous French poisoner. And she was actually a rival of Catherine's.
Oh.
Like, because Catherine was
getting thicker.
Yes. So Catherine was, like, taking up a lot of her business, and Catherine was getting with, like, all the...
My turf, bitch!
Yes.
My turf!
And she was, like, taking, like, all the rich clients. So, obviously, she didn't like her very much. And so, when she was arrested, she had no problem at all ratting out Catherine right away. So...
You little snitch.
Yes.
Snitches get stitches, witches. Witches that snitch get stitches.
Well, I think it's a lot worse than stitches in this case. So Catherine was immediately arrested, and surprisingly, she was not tortured because the police actually knew who she was. Because remember, I told you earlier, she was an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. So the police already, like, she had a reputation.
I mean, I'm not going to judge her on that one.
But, like, people knew who she was. So they were like, instead of torturing her, why don't we just feed her drinks? Let's get her drunk. Because, like...
Oh, no. That would work on me.
I feel... Well, it would work on most people. So they kept her drunk while she was in jail and, like, probed her for information. That was, like, their way of, like... They're like, let's just keep giving her more and more drinks.
Damn.
But I feel like this, to me, I mean, she's an awful person, but I like this about her. She actually never revealed any of her clients' names.
Nice.
Or
so, like, a madam, kind of.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, and she never told them anyone who attended her black masses. The one I talked about, like, with the baby, the blood, the horrific shit, basically.
I respect that.
And keep in mind, she has probably killed up to 2,500 people. So you just got to think about this. So
okay, I keep forgetting. You're making her sound like such a badass bitch.
I know. I'm going. She's not though. She's a horrific person. Catherine was burned at the stake in the heart of Paris in 1680. Oof.
What a horrible way to die.
Yes,
horrific. Yeah. I've actually been on fire. For those who don't know, like I won't get into that story right this minute, but being on fire, not fun.
Well, now you said it, you gotta tell us.
You think so? Yeah, so it was Christmas Eve. I was in 5th grade, so 1990-something. And I was fucking around with a new oil lamp that my parents had got gifted.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and up in flames. I was wearing remember, like, the chenille sweaters from the Gap? They were really popular when we were kids.
No, I don't remember that.
So, anyway, I was wearing one of those with a turtleneck, and... my whole hand, you see the scarf still.
Oh, yeah, I've never noticed that. I think you've told me this story before.
Yeah.
Oh, my
gosh. And my both hands actually were on fire.
Oh, your poor parents were
running through the kitchen. I'm going to hell! I'm going to hell! And so maybe I am a witch. I don't know. And my mom was cooking, actually, and had the sink on because she was, like, shucking carrots.
It was Christmas Day?
Mm-hmm. Aww. It was Christmas Eve. And so she was prepping dinner for the Christmas Eve dinner, and I just threw my hands underneath the sink.
Oh my gosh.
And I obviously blacked out from the adrenaline.
I bet. That's awful.
Then I remember my dad rushing me to the hospital with my hands out the window.
Oh, poor thing.
And,
wait, how old were you again?
I was in 5th grade, so 9?
Christmas was supposed to be like the best.
Yeah, it was awful. And I remember coming home with my hands wrapped like lobsters.
Oh.
And Allie and her sister came over, and their parents, like, that was our tradition every Christmas Eve. And we were watching South Park, actually, and I just remember being, like, drugged up on the couch watching South Park with my lobster hands.
Poor thing.
And yeah, so don't fuck with fire or oil. Took me the hard way to learn that one. Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah, so, yeah. Anyway, I feel
you can feel
on fire. Burning at the stakes a whole nother level because, and just the stench is...
Ugh, yeah,
I'll never forget the stench of my own burning flesh.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I can't even... To be honest, I can't even really think about it. There's, like, certain things you just have to block out.
And I do. I still do. But, like, there's sometimes, like, certain fried foods. I know that's disgusting, but it reminds me of it.
Oh,
and
God.
I was like, oh... Don't fuck with fire, kids.
Yeah.
PSA,
yeah,
number 1.
So at trial, when she was found guilty, she begged for mercy from the crowd and yelled out her innocence. She also cursed the families of each man who was responsible for her verdict. So during this time, the king's mistress was one of the most trusted people in the king's court. He didn't have any assumptions or connect her with the death at all. And this is kind of mind-blowing. She actually is one of the king's advisors during Catherine's trial. So think about that. Like how involved she is. And she's like she's the whole reason, you know what I mean? This is happening.
That it's...
the mistress almost got away with it until Catherine's daughter proved that she was one of Catherine's clients.
Good. Get it, Catherine's daughter.
Don't celebrate too soon.
Oh, man.
So even though it was proven that the mistress was one of Catherine's clients, she lived until 1707, and she was 65 when she passed away.
It's old for back in the day.
Yeah, and she was never charged for the crime she committed, which I'm going to explain.
Okay.
So over 300 people were arrested from the witch hunt. 36 people were executed for their crimes.
Would these be clients of Catherine's? Or just
people from the network.
Okay.
Most of the French aristocrats escaped any sort of punishment because the king was worried that if people learned the truth, that his court was full of like liars, murderers, and people who practiced witchcraft, that the peasant class would rebel and take over. So there was like political reasons why. And
power. Men in their power. Like...
Yeah, but it also was like they're like, should I say dynasty? Like they don't want it being taken over. And then they were also worried if this information leaked that England would try to invade the country. So it was like a way to protect themselves in their country.
You know England would.
Yeah.
With their harshness.
Well, yeah, if you hear that's going on, I'm sure they've like, this country, everything's, I don't know, gone to shit. Let's take over.
Well, aren't they like known rivals too? Because the French helped us out in the revolution.
Yeah, I think all the countries though have had like, good relationships, bad relationships. Yeah. I think that's kind of how it is. All Europe the time is changing. Yeah. But that is the crazy story of Affaire des Poisons.
Wow.
And her name, they refer to her as La Voisin, if you want to look her up. And I thought it was like an extremely fascinating story.
Was.
Yeah, and I was like, damn, why didn't they teach us this stuff in like high school? Because I feel like high school kids would eat this stuff up.
Yeah, I would. Lots of lurid details and like
murder, poison,
sex, and cheating, and
yeah. So all that like good medieval stuff.
Wait, so what happened to the mistress? Did she get burnt at the stake too?
No. So I
just said that.
So she basically just got away with it because they knew if they were to accuse her.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So she lived like a good life. They just kind of was like,
wow. And yet Catherine gets burned at the stake.
Yeah, but I know, like, I kept saying these things, but we can't feel that sorry for her because she did poison.
True. She is a murderess. Let's remember. And
she, think about how many people she killed.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
But I also, like, I know earlier we kind of touched on it, and I was like, oh, wait till I finish telling my story.
Mm-hmm.
I know she poisoned people, but I also feel like I wonder if some of, like, the black masses she held, if those were kind of dramatized because people hated her so much because she was giving abortions, and back in the time that was not acceptable.
I mean, look at Texas. I can't even get into it.
Like that stuff is like heartbreaking.
Women are going to die because they're going to do it at home. So fuck you, Texas.
Well, we all know this, but it's like it's not about the women. It's all about control.
Right. It's controlling our bodies, the one fucking gift that we get. They have to control us. Like, honestly, sorry, here's the anger, y'all. You can actually see it now. Here it is. Woosah. But yeah, it's control.
It's actually, my mom called and canceled AT&T because they're one of the people that donated to the cause.
Good.
So it's good to like kind of look into those companies and see who you're supporting and who you should support instead.
Mm-hmm.
I know I could definitely do a better job at that. But yeah, so I thought it was kind of a wild ride. And
that was such a cool story. I can imagine them. And I know you said they probably smell, but I imagine like a period piece of them all being sexy and the big titties out. You know what I mean? They're like voluptuous, like
I can't believe
like French titties. I don't know.
I can see that. And I can't believe it hasn't been like made into a movie, unless it has been, because it sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a movie.
Well, part of it. Remember how I asked you about what was the show? Yeah. Oh my god, I'm blanking now on the show, or Outlander. There was very similarly, again, like King Louis brought the main character to be tested very similarly to this. And then there was also a character that was his mistress too. So I wonder if they took
I'm sure
historical details like that from this case.
I'm sure it is, and I'm sure this story is very popular in France. I'm sure it's something like most people know there, I'm assuming. But anyway, so that is our first episode, and we can't thank you enough for listening. It's such an honor that you would spend the time to listen, and I hope you enjoyed it. And the next episode, since we're doing like a Halloween series, we're going to be covering Salem trials. We really wanted to split it up so we didn't have to rush it, because I think it's going to be a lot of good information to cover. And that is a wrap for us, and peace be witches! Thanks for listening. Please rate and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast. Check us out on Instagram or bewitchedbanter.com. Suggestions for the show? Email us at bewitchedbanter@gmail.com. Credits, music, Phantom Fun by Jonathan Boyle from premiumbeat.com. Podcast edited and produced by Krista Hins and Amy Holt.